Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalie if you're new here. So today we are doing a get ready with me while I'm in Jamaica for girls night out. So let's just get right into it. So I'm starting off with my primer from Tatcha. This is one of my favorite primers. It's not something that you need to go out and get if you have a good primer, but I just like how this kind of feels like a moisturizer, so it's doubling up as my skincare. So I'm just rubbing that all over my face, making sure I get every inch of that forehead and every inch of my face. And now I'm going to go into my eyebrows. I always do eyebrows first. There is just no questions asked. And I'm using my brow brush to brush my eyebrow hairs upward as I always do. The reason for this is because I want to kind of define the shape of my brows and clean up my brows before I actually start to do my brows. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically I'm just kind of brushing all those unruly hairs upward to keep it in place before I actually pencil them in. Yeah, that's better. So right now I'm using my Sephora brow brush and I'm brushing them upward using the spiraled end. And like I said, the unruly hairs, they be going upward, leftward, downward, and out into the center. And we just want it to go up. So we're just going to brush it up like so. As you can see, I got bit up in Jamaica everywhere. So I had to itch that real quick. For my brows, I am using my Anastasia brow pomade as well as actually, I think that's the only thing I use for my brows. I normally would use pencil, but I just started getting into pomades for the last couple months, and honestly, I love it. I don't get my eyebrows done that often. I do get it done maybe once a month or so, but sometimes they get a little bit unruly before my next appointment. So a brow pomade is perfect for really being able to sculpt your brow even while it looks a little bit messy with all the hairs growing in. So I'm just brushing that pomade into my brow. Here, you don't really need to worry about being too neat because we're going to clean it up with concealer anyway. So in this part, just make sure you're just putting the product on the areas where you want your eyebrows to be. Remember, you're in full control of your eyebrow shape. You can make it flat, you can make it straight, you can make it super arch, whatever you want to do. For me, I just like to keep the arch real subtle, real cute, and make sure that my eyebrows look full in total. So that's what I just finished doing. Now we're going to move on to concealer. I am using my NARS concealer in Café con Leche. So if you're my skin tone, this is the perfect concealer for underneath your eyebrows. Remember, like I always say, on the bottom, you keep it light and bright. On the top, you keep it nude and smooth. You want to keep it light and bright on the bottom to give your underneath your eyebrows that highlighted effect, which is beautiful in the final makeup look. So I'm just using a flat line brush to clean underneath my eyebrows. I would suggest this brush to anyone who's looking for a brush to clean up. This is perfect because it's very precise. It gets right under, it basically follows the line of your eyebrows perfectly. Concealer can really be a trick because if you get it on your actual brows, you already ruined your brow shape. Like you've either made it too arched because that concealer is now on your brow, so you're cutting out that part of your eyebrow. So you really want to make sure you're as focused as I am. I'm like an inch away from my mirror. You don't have to be that close, but my point is that make sure you're focused, make sure you're patient, and make sure you're precise in getting that sculpting down because yes, the pomade's important, but really the concealing is what's going to give you your eyebrow that sculpted effect or whatever shape you actually want it to be. So I'm still just cleaning up my brows. And like I said, the NARS Café con Leche is perfect. It's blendable. It's smooth. It's not too matte, so it's not hard to blend or anything like that. So moving on. So right now, I believe I'm getting my denser brush so I can buff out that concealer. There we go. I'm buffing out that concealer down to my eyelid and just blending that in because you can't just stop at putting your concealer underneath your brows. You really need to make sure you're buffing it out, making sure it's blended so that you don't look like you have like a blotchy, lighter area under your brows. It wouldn't look cute, trust me. So yeah, I always recommend getting a more dense brush to buff all that out, and you can bring it down to your eyelids also as a primer and double up in that area. So right now, as you saw, I just cleaned off my flat brush because I'm going to conceal the top of my brow. So tip number one, if you're using two different products and you only have one brush for it, it's perfectly fine. If you don't even have a brush cleaner, it's perfectly fine. Just take a paper towel, a napkin, whatever you have at your disposal, and just wipe up your brush of that excess product and use the brush for the next project you're going to use. So on my top, I'm doing a nude, which basically I'm using one of my most natural tone foundations that match my shade perfectly to clean up my top of my brow. So for this step, I use two different products. I use my NARS Glowy Foundation, and I also use my LA Pro Girl Concealer in Cool Tan, and my shade for the NARS is Tahoe. Love, love, love both of those products for above my eyebrow because the NARS Glowy is very, very blendable. It's very liquidy. So it gives me that power to just blend as I want to. And then the LA Pro Girl gives me that more matted and sculpted effect that gives me a more full coverage look essentially. So I just finished putting my NARS one on and I'm about to go into my LA Pro Girl. There it is in Cool Tan. That is a staple if you need a concealer just to clean up your brows. And honestly, this is also good just to use as a concealer in general. Staple. It's like $5 at Ulta and it's full coverage. It's matte. It's mattifying. It's beautiful. So I'm actually using this as my eye primer as well. I usually use a specific eye primer, but honestly, you can use concealer. You can use anything to prime your lids. Just make sure you're priming your lids and following it by setting your lid, which I also do, as you'll see in the next couple seconds. It's really important to set your lids because you're putting liquid on your eyelids, and you're gonna follow that up with shadow. So if your concealer is not blended enough, so when you set it, you give your base a perfect seamless finish so that your shadow can look even better once you apply it. So I am just setting my lids right now with my Laura Mercier translucent powder so that I can get ready to do my eye look. So tonight I was going for a dark and sultry look. I really wanted to be bold tonight because my outfit was also bold. So I wanted to make sure they weren't clashing, but yet it was still giving. So I'm going into my Anastasia Soft Glam palette. I love this palette. It has such a wide variety of brown tones that I just adore. So I don't remember the shade name, but I'm going in with the darkest shade and I'm focusing it on the outer parts of my eyelid. Tip number 2. When you're doing your eye look, you have to make sure that you're symmetrical with both eyes. It's not like your eyebrows where you don't want them to be twins, you want them to be sisters, but no, wait. Your eyebrows, you want them to be cousins, I think, or just not twins, exactly identical, or whatever you want, you can do. But for me, I don't like them looking exactly alike. As you can see, one of the eyebrows is a little bit more arched than the other because my natural brows are like that, just the way I like it. It's very subtle that only I can notice though. But with your eyelids, you really do want them to be symmetrical because you don't want one side looking more pigmented than the other side. So the way that I combat that is I just make sure when I'm doing my eyeshadow, I go back and forth every couple seconds to make sure I'm doing the same thing on both eyes. And as you can see, I stop for a second and just look to make sure that they're looking the same kind of pigmentation, the same kind of effect. So with the darker shadow, I'm going to focus on the outer parts of my lid, but I'm going to bring it inward. I'm just not going to focus it inward. I really want to open my eyes up, which is why I'm keeping that dark pigment on the outer parts of my lid. And I'm really getting in there and putting a lot of product there. The key is blending. The key is always blending in makeup to make sure it doesn't look blotchy. So as you can see, I fast forwarded this clip because I spent a good amount of time blending this shadow. Following this, I'm going to go with an even darker shadow actually and literally just focus on the outer part so I can open my eyes out and give my eyes that smoky effect. I wanted to do a liner look tonight as well, so with my eyeshadow and an angled flat brush, I'm actually making a smudged out eyeliner with those two things. So you don't always need an actual eyeliner pen to do eyeliner. You can actually just use your eyeshadow, and with the proper brush you can have the same effect. I really want a smudged out look. Remember, you don't have to be neat for this as either because you're going to clean it up with concealer anyway, so you really just want to get the product there. Make sure it's blended. Placement doesn't matter as much. Like I said, you're going to clean it up anyways with concealer. So as you can see, it's a little bit messy, and that's perfectly okay. So I just kept that black pigment really focused on the outer parts of my eye. Moving on to lashes. So not much to say here. Make sure when you're putting your lash glue on your lashes, you put enough, but you don't put too much. And the other tip is to just make sure your lash glue is drying for an appropriate amount of time. I am telling you from experience, if you don't let it sit for long enough, it will not stick to your eyelid. It will mess up your eye look, and it'll just become a disaster. So really make sure that you are letting your lash glue sit, and you'll see that I even forgot to put the lashes on and they still stuck to my lid. So there you go with that. Now I'm doing foundation. I'm using my NARS Soft Matte foundation in Tahoe as well. As you can see, I tried to be a little cute here and put some hearts on my face because why not? Love is one of the most important things you can do. So I just wanted to throw some love at you guys with those hearts. So I'm just blending it in with a kabuki brush, very dense. I love starting my foundation blending with the brush. I don't think I do it in this clip, but I also blend it with the sponge right after to get rid of any excess product so my face does not look too blotchy. So I'm just blending that out. Again, the key here is also blending, as it is with every single part of the makeup look. And I'm bringing it up to my forehead, I'm bringing it down to my chin, and I even bring it down to my neck depending on what I'm wearing and if my neck or décolleté will be showing. My makeup, it looks a little yellow here, but trust me, it does not look like that in the final look. I think it was just the lighting that I was using, but love, love, love this foundation. It's super mattifying but not drying, and it's very much so full coverage. So concealer. So I am trying a new technique. Well, I've been trying it for a couple months and I am sticking with it, where I apply my concealer with a small flat brush because I want to have full control over placement of my concealer. This is super important because you really don't want to get your concealer everywhere. You really want to focus on the areas that you actually want highlighted. So I use this flat brush to control that and be as precise as possible with my placement. And what I usually do is I actually use a lighter shade in the inner parts where near my nose is, and also for my nose contour. And then I do like a little bit more natural, but still a tad bit lighter on the outer parts of under my eye, as well as my forehead and my chin. I always let my concealer sit for about 30 seconds just to give it more coverage when I blend. And now I'm putting on my lashes finally. A good minute has passed. I literally forgot that I had to put lashes on, but I realized when I looked in the mirror, something was missing, and it was that. So with lashes, it's super easy. You just have to keep practicing. Trust me, I struggled with lashes for a long, long time, but with practice, everything comes perfect. So I'm using my always damp your sponges to blend out your concealer. It just blends so much more seamlessly. And remember, when you're blending, you're not swipey, no swipey, okay? Like, we're just patting it in and moving our hand upwards while we're patting. We're not swiping, because when you're doing that, not only are you removing your product, but you're disrupting the placement that you placed the concealer in the first place. So I'm just blending that out. It looks real, scary right now with the whole light parts of the inner parts of my face. But when we blend it all together with the contour and the bronzer, it'll look perfect, or close to perfect. So yeah, I'm just blending that in. I think the hardest part for me is blending out my forehead. I don't know why it's so hard, but I just feel like it isn't that perfect circular highlighted area that I want. But with the contour and the bronzer, you can completely fix that. So now we're going into contour. I'm using my Maybelline concealer in the shade Honey. I love this concealer. It's super blendable. It's not too mattifying, and it just looks really good. Like, it doesn't look muddy, and that's always a plus. So I'm taking my Sephora foundation brush. This specifically is a small foundation brush. I noticed that when I used bigger brushes to blend out my contour, that's when it looked muddy and that's when it looked real messy. So I start off with a smaller brush to place my contour, and then I take a little bit of a bigger brush to blend it all in. This is my e.l.f. foundation brush, which I actually really love for both foundation and contour, but I normally just use it for contour. And I just blend out my contour on my nose, very close to my hairline, might I say, into my hairline as well, and on my jawline and on my under my cheekbones. So now I am contouring my nose. This is super important. Like, you do not want to look like Pinocchio. I have walked out as Pinocchio before because I messed up my nose contour. It's really important to just be precise. I started using a dense blending brush actually to blend out my nose contour, and that changed the game for me. And just make sure you're keeping your finger or your brush in a straight line to do so, and it'll be perfectly fine. Again, practice makes perfect. So I'm also adding contour to the sides of my nose, because that's really where the contouring comes in, with the sides of your nose as you're blending that in. You don't need to use too much product for this. If too much product, then it will look too harsh. So just be aware. So I don't really bake anymore. I like to pat my powder in, because I just like the effect better. I don't have any flashback issues or anything like that. So if you do feel like you're having flashback issues, then maybe patting your powder in and really getting it into your skin is the best way to go. I like to clean underneath my contour if I feel like it looks a little bit messy. What I use to clean it up is my foundation shade. I do not use concealer because I've had problems with flashback before doing that, or just different lighting just not complementing the makeup look. So I like using my foundation shade or any shade that's close to my skin tone. And I just let it sit for a little bit as I'm bronzing up the rest of my face. So to blend out that, I just take another foundation brush. Any brush will do fine, and I clean up my contour. And the good thing about this is as you're cleaning up underneath your contour, you're actually blending in your contour even better so that it doesn't look as harsh on your face. So this is a perfect step if you feel like your contour is either looking muddy, it's looking harsh, it's not looking as blended. So after everything's all blended in and I'm done putting excess product or any new products on my face, I like to blend out everything with my Sephora Micro Smooth finishing powder. It is in the shade Tan. This is my staple. I bring this everywhere. It's just amazing, honestly. Go out and get you one. It's only $20. And I just use this to blend everything. Next, I'm going back into my eyes. I'm going to do some eyeliner. So for me, if I'm doing any type of dark and sultry look, you gotta have the black eyeliner, girl. You just have to. It just adds so much more dimension to your eyes and a little bit more sexy, dare I say. So I'm putting at that eyeliner on the bottom of my eyes, making sure I put enough, making sure I'm not too, I'm not too shy with it. I really give that sultry look, basically. I'm also going to go with my brow gel. So the thing with my makeup application is that I'm not always orderly. I kind of go all over the place based on how I'm feeling, what products are directly in front of me. So right now I'm just making sure I put my brow gel on to make sure I set my brows. This is definitely an important part of the makeup because if you're doing a long night out, your brows can get oily. I know mine's do. So setting it really kind of diminishes that oiliness. So now I'm setting with my staple Morphe setting spray. This is actually not a setting spray. This is actually a finishing spray, but we can get into that into another video. So you're gonna see me going in with a second setting spray to actually set my face and make sure it lasts the whole night. The Morphe, for me, it really just blends everything in. It really gets rid of any type of blotchiness, anything like that. It'll get rid of for me before I actually set it. So with blush, I usually do this before setting spray, but I just forgot. So I'm going in with my Taj Mahal blush from NARS, and I love this brush. It's orange tinted, and I just love the look it gives. It's very soft, but also very rosy. So it really just gives me that nice airy look to my final makeup look. So I'm just putting that in. I do have specific blush brushes that I use. I probably should make a video on my brushes. I need to do that for you guys just to kind of see how different brushes are really supposed to do different things. So this brush right here, I don't remember the name, but let me know if you want a video on just brushes and I can do that for you. So now to the lips. I was attempting to use this lip pencil from MAC. This is the shade Cork, which I normally love, but tonight it just wasn't hitting. You'll see in a second that I realized that this lip liner was just not going to work. And I end up going for my Juvia's lip liner in Cola. Any dark, as you can see, I was not feeling it. Any dark liner will do. I really wanted to do that dark lining on the outer parts of my lips and a little bit of a pinker tone on the inside of my lips, and then I seal that all with gloss. So this liner was perfect, deep enough for me to have that effect. When I'm putting on liner, I don't just focus it on the outer edge of my lips. I actually bring it and cover 75% of my lips. As you see here, I'm not keeping it on the outer edge. I'm bringing it inward, but I'm keeping the center of my lips empty so I can apply my more pinker shade of lipstick, which is from Smashbox. Don't know the shade of this, but it's a beautiful pink and it really just blends well with the darker liner that I used. And then after I'm finished putting that on, I go in with my Dose of Colors lip gloss. It's gonna look pretty pink in a second, but it's actually more close to clear. And I didn't want anything that had too much pigment. I didn't want to disrupt the blending that I had with the original two things I used on my lips. So this kind of gives me that final glossy look that I'm going for without actually changing what I just finished doing. And I just put that on my lips. Now I'm going to set my face one final time. Now this is my actual setting spray, which you'll see in about 2.5. This is from Sephora, and this works pretty well. It's pretty affordable also in Sephora, and it just helps with keeping my makeup lasting long. And this is the final look. I hope you guys liked it as much as I did. I was very pleased with the final outcome. I love the outer parts of my eyelid. I love how I made it a little bit darker, but also you can see that I'm going for sultry altogether. I love the blending that I did. I just like the look altogether, so I hope you guys liked it too. Now the moment we've all been waiting for, how to take your own pictures. Geez, are you someone who loves taking pictures but yet never has anyone take them for you? Okay, don't click out the video yet. This is for you. I have 8 different tips for you to perfect taking your own pictures. Tip number 1 is... It's gonna ruin my vibe. Yes, do not take pictures in front of people. If you're on a street and that's the look you're going for, that's a different story. But if you're with like friends you're getting ready to go out with, I would suggest going somewhere else to take your own pictures because it can be uncomfortable, especially if it's your first time. Like having your friend stare at you when you could literally just ask them to take the picture for you. It's a little awkward. So just go downstairs or go outside your place and take your own pictures. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is before you even do all that, go look in the mirror and hype yourself up real quick. Taking your own pictures can be really like I said, uncomfortable. It was for me when I first started. But look in the mirror, tell yourself you're beautiful. Remind yourself rather that you're beautiful, you're hot, and you're about to take these bomb pictures. Tip number 3, make sure, as you just saw, I just got up. Make sure you're taking some pauses to look at the pictures you just finished taking. You don't want to go through an hour of taking your photos, not looking at either one of them. And then when you go to look at them finally, you'll see that it was blurry. There's something in the camera, like it wasn't clear, and that will just ruin the whole mood. So make sure every 3 or 4 photos, you go back and check out what you just did to make sure you like the angle your phone is in, making sure you like the actual pose. Tip number 4, be patient because it can get a little awkward with your posing. You'll see in a bit that I do something like, what am I doing right here? What is actually happening? It gets a little bit awkward. Like my bag looks weird, like my hand, like the strap is down. It looks kind of awkward, but that's okay. Make sure you allocate enough time to take your pictures before you're getting ready to go out because you already told yourself you're going to take pictures, so you might as well have them look the way you want them to look. So make sure you have that time to actually do that. Tip number 5, let me turn my notes over here. You need to get a remote control, of course. You need to go to Amazon, look up Bluetooth remote. They're very affordable. I think they're less than $15. And you're going to connect it to your phone, your phone's Wi-Fi, and you're good to go. You have your own device for taking your pictures, and you have a phone already. So, boom, you got it. Tip number 6, make sure when you're taking your photos, unless you're going for that like off-guard look at the camera. When you're posing, you want to make sure you're acting like someone else is taking the photo of you. And honestly, I mean, I guess you don't have to act like that, but just look at the photo. It gives you more of that sexy look. It gives you more of that confident and dominant look. You'll see here, like right here, look at that. Like I just look like a boss right there, looking in your eyes and letting you know that I am she. Okay? And tip number 7, props. So props are really important because it just kind of adds to the look. And location is tip number 8. So I'll combine those two together. So basically location. So look where I'm at. You can see that the stripes in the pillows really complement the stripes in my outfit in my bag. The color scheme is beautiful. The navy of the pillows and the navy in the frame. I didn't plan for the frames and the couch to look so perfect together, but it ended up happening. And I realized like, wow, that actually added to my look. So your scenery is really important. And props. So I'm playing around with the bucket hat. I'm playing around with some red hoops. I'm playing around with a zebra bag. I'm playing around with the extensive length of my braids. Like all those things come into play with the pictures. Play around with your hands. Look where my hand placement is right here. Really get comfortable being uncomfortable, and the fact that nobody's looking at you, or especially not friends or anybody you know, strangers, who cares? They're gonna look at you regardless because you're cute, but it'll just make you so much more freer in your picture taking. So really use that time to really just get loose and get uncomfortable and just play around with posing, play around with what you're playing with. I'm holding my braids right here. You could hold the bucket hat. You could have your hand above your head. You could do so many different things, and that's why I love taking my own pictures. So this is pretty much it. This is how you take your own pictures. It's not easy at first. I'm not trying to make it sound easy, but as you keep doing it, you'll get more comfortable being uncomfortable. So I really hope you loved the tutorial as well as this How to Take Pictures 101. This is the final picture, and I just want to thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so you can be notified for future videos. If there's anything you want to see, please comment it down below and I'll be sure to take a look at it. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!